Yeah, that just added to the bizarreness.
Um, it's funny because I grew up in the West, but I had never been to Las Vegas before.
Oh my God, that was your first?
Yeah.
That would explain that scared look in your eye.
Can you hang on just one second?
Yeah.
I made it live. Can you see him? Okay. Because yeah, it's doing that thing again where Maggie, the thing that happened with Maggie. Okay.
Maggie turned bald on this?
Yeah, and she wrote a book for little boys.
Oh no.
It didn't do very well. Um,
No judgment.
yeah, no judgment. Um, okay, so we'll talk for about 15 minutes and just look in the little camera on your computer, and then we're going to edit this down to the best parts and make this live on August 11th, the day before the pub date, I believe, of this
Oh,
one.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, here, let me get some show and tell. I got some random Frank stuff.
Okay, great. Uh, so all you need to remember is to finish your sentences, just like on radio,
Yeah.
and look in the camera, and we'll be all good.
And just make them complete like you're not even here.
Right.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I mean, when we started out this TV series, I was really excited about being on camera and being a big star, and then our marketing department said, "Oh, you're not going to be on camera."
They forgot to tell you until you signed your contract.
Yeah.
Oops.
um, so tell me, do you remember how the idea for this one came to you?
Yeah, the idea for Frank Einstein came to me weirdly enough, just with the name. I thought the name was hysterical. Like Frank Einstein, I had nothing else to go with it. I just had the name. And I knew it was good once I told a kid, like this 9-year-old kid, I was just like showing some books. I said, hey, I might do a book named Frank Einstein. And then it just took off from there. I figured, oh yeah, he'd be a genius, of course, and he'd kind of make things like monsters, which turned out to be robots. And then from there, just like everything was possible. It seems kind
Yeah.
of a lame way to start an idea, but interesting.
And so Brian's illustrations are so nicely woven in. Like, did you have to sort of collaborate with him, or did he just receive the text in the normal way and go from there, or how
Oh,
did the
yeah. The illustrations for Frank were really key to the narrative and really particular and had to be really, I don't know, kind of really messed around with because it has both narrative illustrations, and I wanted to also have an equal number of diagrams because the idea for the whole 6 book series is to cover all of science, which now I'm thinking about again. Now that I'm on to book 2, it's kind of a daunting task. But the diagrams are so much fun, but they're intense. I mean, you have to figure out how to explain things like antimatter in a diagram. Or right now I'm doing book 2, which is all about energy, and to explain electricity and magnetism in a diagram is pretty funny. So Brian and I went back and forth a ton, which was really fun to just kind of sharpen things and make sure that the diagrams were telling a huge chunk of the story too. Oh no, you just froze. Mm-hmm.
yeah? Well, that I mean, one of the things you do nicely is that. Oh, am I there?
Wait, you're back now. You're weirdly lagged, but you're back.
Yeah. Okay, that happens sometimes. We'll just edit that out. But about this book is the way that you do convey educational. It's
There, I got most of that. Are you back?
Yeah.
Can you hear?
You there?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, you know what? I think a lot of the ideas of getting across all that knowledge of science, but not in a didactic way, really came out of my experience being an elementary school teacher. I always found kids like to learn like I did. If it's compelling and it's interesting, what a better way to do or to learn something instead of memorizing it. And it's kind of what I did with historical information and the Time Warp Trio. I just love history. And I thought, you know what? I'll just invent three guys who can go anywhere and give me an excuse to go anywhere in history. So with Frank Einstein, he can kind of go anywhere in science. He's got these two incredibly smart robots. Well, one's smart and one's incredibly dumb, but they help him actually do anything. He makes an antimatter motor overnight for like $30. And in this way, I get to go to all those great areas of science and just kind of pick and choose the really fun stuff to just introduce kids to and kind of give it in this non-threatening, non-pretentious way. Just say like, hey, you might be interested to know that electricity and magnetism are kind of two different forms of the same thing. How weird is that?
Yeah. So what would Albert Einstein say about this book?
I think Albert Einstein would say he loves this book. He would say, buy this book in hardcover as often as you can. In fact, and in the first book, I attempt to explain E equals MC squared. Um, we'll see how that goes. It's kind of a daunting concept, but the basic idea is like a very teeny, teeny, teeny piece of matter can be changed into a humongous chunk of energy. That's my Einstein lesson for the day.
So if Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein were in an arm wrestling match, who would win?
Oh, Einstein would. Absolutely. I mean, Edison would get an early lead, and he'd probably bring in some big hulking guy to throw him down. But Einstein would have figured this out ahead of time and actually beat him out on it.
Right. So I don't know if you want to answer this one, but you have written a lot of books, and I was just curious, do you have one that's a favorite?
Oh, a favorite book of mine?
Yeah.
Um, no, you know what? I kind of just, I'm all over the map with them. Oh, actually, weirdly enough, this year is the 25th anniversary of Three Little Pigs, which is kind of hard to believe. But that kind of makes it a favorite. I've just been like thinking about that when it first came out. Lane and I just thought it would be funny to make a funny book. Who knew it would be around like 25 years later, millions of copies, like 20 different languages? It freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. So now, I mean, you're involved in the Guys Read effort, and I want to ask you about that. But I was curious, when you were a little boy, did you read a lot?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was a great reader. And I think that's some of what shaped the guys read stuff. Like I grew up with five brothers, no sisters. So it was this great laboratory of boys and reading. And half of us became readers and half of us really aren't. And I don't even know what that is. I'm still kind of puzzled by that. I think some of it's just like who you are, because we were kind of exposed to the same stuff. My dad was an elementary school principal. My mom was a nurse, and they read to us all the time. So I love stuff. Like I grew up with Go Dog Go and the Five Chinese Brothers, Mike Mulligan and the Steam Shovel, all of Dr. Seuss, the Carrot Seed. And even then, I thought, man, this is really cool. I want to read more of this stuff. Um, so I think that's where I started.
And so, I mean, tell me why you got involved in Guys Read, or how you did.
Well, Guys Read came out of my personal experience of one, growing up with all those brothers, two, then always loving reading, and just kind of feeling bad, honestly, for kids who weren't readers. I thought, man, that's kind of a shame. They'll miss something really funny, really entertaining, just like it's a whole world as we know, us who are readers. And then teaching elementary school for 10 years, I just saw boys having trouble connecting with reading. And my own kids. I have a daughter, Casey, who's an incredible reader, overachiever. And my son, Jake, who's, I don't know, he sees himself as a hockey player, I think. He's not too thrilled with the whole reading thing. So I thought, you know what, we should at least, someone's got to make some noise to even bring attention to this subject. That was like 10 years ago that I started Guys Read purely as just like a website to get people thinking about it. Like, why are boys doing so terrible? Because the stats are terrible on boys across the list.
Yeah.
And across the world. It's really kind of daunting. And having been a teacher and a brother with all these guys, I realized boys are different. People know that. I think teachers know that. Parents know that. So it kind of makes sense that boys read in a different way than girls. I mean, no one even dared say that like 10 years ago. Now I think it's kind of okay. I mean, it's really expanded, which is great.
Yeah. Do you think the publishing industry just wasn't sort of hip to the ways that boys read differently than girls?
I think the problem with boys and reading was a weird, knotty, complicated problem of biology, sociology, psychology. It's boys developmentally are slower to become readers. That's just neurologically true. They don't have small motor coordination as soon as girls. And so they get behind in reading. And then they think like, all right, I don't want to be behind. I just won't do it. And I totally understand that psychology. I mean, I think like that. I'm a guy. And then I was in this world of elementary school, which is all women, or 90%, same as a lot of the children's publishing, same as the library. And weirdly, what happens is I think people recommend, or not so weirdly, people recommend their favorite books. I mean, I saw that in faculty meetings. Everyone would say like, oh, I love The Cricket in Times Square. I'm going to make everyone read it. And that's a great book. But in my classroom, we were reading Roald Dahl. We were reading The Phantom Tollbooth. We read stuff that I liked. So I think it's just like guys' tastes wasn't represented. And from the publisher's point of view, I know it's still tough for them to sell to boys. Though now there's such a great range. There's science fiction that's taken off, the graphic novels. So I think publishing has really caught up with it.
Yeah. And so your daughter Casey is a writer also.
Yeah.
Um, do you all have mean fights about who's a better writer?
Well, I think the one sad moment for me when Casey published her first book was she probably has more pages written and more illustrations than I did. Like in all my stuff in my first 10 years, it was like, oh. But no, man, I love seeing her. Just her voice is so good. And then her husband, Steven Weinberg, has some picture books out with Simon and Schuster, which is great. And I get to read his stuff, and we go back and forth and talk about it.
Yeah. But you've never locked her in the basement to keep her from publishing?
I only locked her in the basement that one time to keep her from publishing. I just thought that would be a good idea because I'm the ambassador. I can kind of do whatever I want and get
Right.
away.
And speaking of being the ambassador, are you going to be buried next to all the presidents in Arlington Cemetery?
Yes, yes. Actually, part of being an ambassador is, and part of being the first ambassador is I get to make up privileges. So I would like a plot at Arlington. I would like a bust. I don't have my bronze bust yet. I would also like several bridges named after me, with the correct spelling, please. Or not. Maybe they can just be the Frank Einstein bridge. That would be fine.
Yeah.
Got a lot of demands.
Yeah. Cool. Well, great. Well, we all enjoyed the book here, so congrats on it. Uh, this is great. We'll turn this into a shorter piece, as I told you,
Oh, fantastic.
and then we'll do a lot of getting it out into the world when the book is out.
Yeah, and let me know, and I'll help spread the word and get it around
Yeah.
to my pals. This is so good that you're here in this position. I kind of love it.
Yeah, it's been really great. The book festival was such a good job for me, but I just miss journalism so much, and getting to stay here and be the editor of Kirkus is pretty sweet.
Well, that's
So
what I was thinking. It's the perfect combination of your expertise and what you like to do. So you get to
yeah,
just harass authors all the time now
yeah,
with the
I
title.
know,
And as we know, that's what you're good at.
I know, I know, totally. So, well, great. Well, thanks so much, John, for your time. And when I'm up there in New York next, let's get lunch or a drink or something.
Absolutely, check in with me, and I'll be down for Texas Book Festival,
Oh,
whether
you
they,
will?
you
Oh,
know.
that's great.
Yeah, I'll find a way to get down there. It's too good to miss.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. Well, then I'll see you then.
Cool.
Okay, have a good day.
All right, thanks, Clay.
Okay, bye-bye.